I think that, you know, DeBeck and Parachute, I'm really glad that they have seen the light and have jumped on the opportunity to establish markets in their town. And maybe it's a good thing that Grand Junction has held off this long, because if Grand Junction would have opened up the cannabis industry 5 years ago, those small little towns would not have even had a chance to have cultivation operations and testing and edibles manufacturing and dispensaries. So, you know, in a way, it's kind of a good thing that it's moving west down the interstate. It's about time that Grand Junction started seriously considering this as a viable business that is in most every other place in Colorado.
The educational programs are being funded by tax revenue generated from sales of cannabis. The city and state are, you know, very proactive with where they're spending their funds, and I really think that if people look deeper, they'll see that the tax revenue being generated is going towards those concerns that they're voicing. Their voices are not falling on deaf ears, and there's just more education that needs to take place. There's a lot of stigma, and if you get down to the scientific facts and look at the advocates and the patients that are utilizing it, there's a lot more benefit than there is harm.
There are 7 states that have recreational marijuana available, so that's more than 20% of the population have access to recreational marijuana. So we need to get ahead of it and be proactive and create the legislation for it rather than let it occupy this gray market where it has been lately.
What we saw, we've gone through a few votes here in the town of Eagle, so we have really been able to see our community come out and support a marijuana dispensary. So, and I think that's huge. The town of Eagle citizens have voted for us a few times, so the community feels like they're a part of this store as much as we feel as part of the community. So that's been a huge benefit for us.
There's a big stigma that comes with just legal marijuana, so a lot of people are inclined to jump to conclusions without really just taking a step back and watching it happen and seeing that once it happens, you know, it doesn't change anything. It's just a legal avenue for adults 21 and over to consume marijuana in a responsible manner. You know, they treat it just like open container, so, you know, you can't just go down the street, you know, smoking a doobie, just like you can't walk down the street drinking a beer. So, you know, as long as, you know, citizens respect those laws, nothing's gonna change, you know, everyone's life is still gonna be the same.
In Glenwood, we've seen like Green Dragon, that's become a corporate one. The people who own these companies, I've worked with them and I grow. These guys are not your stoner, hippy-dippy guys. These are professionals who are coming out trying to create well-paying jobs and treat their employees right. And they want to give back to their community. They're not self-centered or just, you know, trying to make a bunch of money. They do see economic opportunity and they go after it. Can you blame them? The same would happen in Grand Junction.
The tax revenue has dramatically influenced other counties, like you've seen in Pueblo. They've raised $425,000 for education scholarships. So it's benefited communities like that, you know, what we could really use here. In Mesa County, our school system is in drastic need of a lot of repairs. I think about $58 million worth, which money that they don't have. On average, the buildings are about 50 to 60 years old. In some schools, safety is a concern, and there's you know, concrete crumbling and exposed wires, and some of these schools are just, you know, irreparable. Our school district really needs the money as well, so it needs to be legalized countywide, so that way we're getting those tax dollars.
Colorado is one of the leading states in legalization, and more states legalize every year, yet here in Grand Junction we have plenty of black market cannabis, and very little medical cannabis, and zero legal recreational cannabis.
Bringing like the cannabis industry to Grand Junction, when we talk about jobs, it's more than what sometimes people just see of like, hey, I got a job trimming. I've heard a few different economists put numbers in a way that like $1 in is $6 out, or one job in is 6 jobs out. So as soon as we bring in a facility to be designed, whether it's, you know, people see that forward-facing dispensary where it's like I went and I bought my medicine or some cannabis flower. There's maybe 4 or 5 people working there, but what we don't realize is all the jobs that were given to the people who were retrofitting that outfit, the construction jobs, the people who did the marketing for it, the idea that there's a cultivation behind that, there's a processing facility behind it, there's a security job behind that. There's so many jobs that are embodied. In 2016, one of the estimates was 18,000 jobs that were cannabis specific in Colorado. So you multiply that out, and we're looking at a job industry of, you know, under 100,000 jobs that are embodied benefits from the cannabis industries.
On a local level, here in Eagle, the Town of Eagle Police will reach out to us when they have informative / educational presentations that they put on with the local schools, and we will actually give them old wrappers, containers that have labels, so they can let students and parents know how to identify certain marijuana products. It's huge for them to understand what is a marijuana product in itself.
To address like the concerns with teen drug usage, right now in an unregulated market, you know, nobody cards in an unregulated market, then, you know, anybody has access to it. But when you're regulating it and you create that legislation, then you're creating a system where people are being carded and where, you know, it's limited to adult usage rather than, you know, just kind of a free-for-all.
On a local level, it's just across the board. It's huge for us to work with police because it's in our best interest. We don't want to see people getting in trouble for it. This is a legal thing, so the more they know, the more we know on their end. Everything just makes sense with that. So we embrace it. They come in and they reach out, and we work with them all the time.
Bringing dispensaries in Grand Junction would bring it more out in the open, and it would be less shady. You know, the black market in Grand Junction is robust because there's 1,900 medical marijuana patients, and who knows how many recreational cannabis users in this town that know how to get their hands on cannabis, regardless of whether or not Grand Junction has stores or not. And yet Grand Junction doesn't benefit from one transaction.
DeBeck is a great case example for how cannabis can help support a community. In 2015, they generated somewhere around $340,000 worth of tax revenue out of a shop that's about 2,000 square feet. I'm not sure how many businesses you know of that can do that, but I think that's a very impressive feat, especially for such a small town. If you drive by there, you'll notice they've got a new firehouse. The infrastructure with the roads is improving. They're seeing an increase in jobs. You know, cannabis may not be an end-all be-all to all of your economic problems, but it certainly does support growth in stagnated economies.
Colorado has more than $1 billion in marijuana sales in the year 2016, even without contributing counties like ours. So I feel like we need to get ahead of it and create the legislation for it now that there's so many people on board.
And so Glenwood has a thriving cannabis community, and we've seen it change, and same with moving up towards Carbondale, or if you move out to Ouray came out as a right to farm county. So as we move out on the farther areas, those people are trying to attract themselves and bring business there. Grand Junction is the hub of the Western Slope. People come here to do their shopping, they come here to see movie theaters or do what they do. So our embodied economy in Grand Junction is the whole Western Slope.
I think the biggest benefit that we have here in the town of Eagle is that we work with the police department, we work with the town of Eagle government, we work with the local communities, and with open communication, everyone benefits because we can all talk about what's going on. Marijuana is not going away. That benefit of being able to educate the whole community with the communication between all agencies only benefits the community.
To the people who are against cannabis stores in Grand Junction, you know, come to the table and let us know your concerns, and we'll help alleviate them and make sure that they don't happen here in Grand Junction. We've got, you know, Denver and all the other big cities who have legal cannabis to look at what they're doing, and we can ask them what works and what doesn't work for them, and we can have the best city in Colorado to have cannabis business.